Anyone seen the superintendent? Good evening. We are going to begin our our annual tax rate hearing. So we'll begin with Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nikki, would you please call roll?
Here.
Here.
Mrs. Cocker? Dr. Ciortino?
Here.
Mr. Zeltzer?
Here.
Mr. Schindler?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
I am here. May I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve the agenda for the Board of Education tax rate hearing as scheduled for September 29th, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Tonight, we will welcome Patty Bedborough, Parkway CFO, to share with us tax rate information.
Good evening, President Todd, board members, Dr. Marty, and Mrs. Stover. Tonight, we do have the pleasure of being able to present to you our new tax rate. Good news, certainly for our residents of Parkway, with our increase in our
in nature. Our commercial real estate is 23% of our total, 12% is our personal property, and just under 1% is our agriculture. As you know, in the last several years, we have several settlements from protested taxes. So that's been pretty much an ongoing process since 2005. We have a process that we're able to recover those lost revenues by then levying a future levy. That whole process is called recoupment. So each summer, that is one of the calculations that I go through with the information from St. Louis County, provide that to the state auditor's office. So this year's calculation, we have an estimated revenue of $3.3 million, $3,264,654, and the different levies that have been included in our proposed rates are .0025 for residential, .5721 for agriculture, .2466 for commercial, and the overall blended rate for our total tax rate is .0583. Just a reminder too, since our last tax rate increase on our operating levy, Parkway has had a voluntary rollback on our residential rate. That current value is just over 14 cents, and that approximate revenue value each year is just over $5 million. So that is money that we could consider in reserve, that if we wanted to levy that, we could increase that levy, but we choose to keep that as a voluntary rollback. Every other year, so every non-assessment year, we do have the ability to adjust or roll back that rate and take part of that rate. But when it's a reassessment year, we do not have that ability to change that rate. We could always increase it, but we could not decrease it. So with all of those factors combined, we put the information, the assessed valuation, year-over-year changes into the form that's provided by the state auditor's office. Of course, that all follows state statute and the Hancock Amendment. Based on that, we come up with not only our operating rates, but then our total rates as well, which include debt service. So this slide actually shows our recommendation for our operating rates. So residential, 3.1490, which is a decrease of 19.4 cents or 0.194. Agriculture, 2.6497, which is a slight increase of 0.7008. Commercial, 4.4088, which is a decrease of 0.0089. Personal property of 3.7708, which is unchanged, and a blended rate of 3.5132, which is a decrease of almost 14 cents of 0.1392. Our tax levy on our debt service fund is 49 cents. The debt service fund is not contributory with the Hancock Amendment, so we do have the full change in the assessed valuation times the rate impact into that fund, whereas the operating rate is restricted by the Consumer Price Index, which is 1.4%. So as you can see in the change column, it's exactly the same as in the operating rate. It's just our total rate on each of those property classes have increased by that 49 cents. So when a resident looks at their bill, when they receive that from the county, the one line that will say Parkway School District, it will read then the rate that we assess is 3.6390. So they'll see that number on their bill. But once again, that is a rollback of just over 19 cents from last year. When we actually put the taxes into our financial statements, we take that revenue that's levied by property class, and then we associate that then by fund. So even your board motion that is before you tonight for your consideration is based on levying the tax rate based on our funds. So general fund, 1.2092, special or teachers fund, 2.2457, capital projects, 0.0583, which is our recoupment, and then our debt service of 49 cents for a total of $4.0032. Now you might ask, what does that all mean to me? If I am a homeowner, how does that change for me? So in this slide, we wanted to depict what, this is not an individual that we've picked. We've looked at an overall price increase. So we've taken that home value from last year of $286,500 on average. We've increased it by the overall increase for residential property of the 8.6%. So that brings that market value to $311,000. The assessed valuation on residential property is 19%. So that brings us to the $59,090. We would multiply that by the 3.6390 to get to $2,153. For the amount for cars, we left that the same, an estimated $14,700. Personal property is assessed at 33%, so that's $4,851. So times the 3.77 tax rate, we have the $207. But overall, the point of this slide is essentially to show that even though there was a gross increase in our residential values of 8.6%, the net impact to our homeowner is about 3.2%, or $67. Over time, we want to show too that as our assessed valuation in residential has grown, you can see that Parkway has taken the opportunity then to roll back those rates as well. So a lot of times it's a shock factor when you see your new assessment. You think, oh my gosh, my taxes are going to go up astronomically. But in reality, we roll back that rate, so then it does help to flatline that a little bit. This year, once again, just to mention, our consumer price index was 1.4%. If the average homeowner did have that 8.6% increase, they should not see that same 8.6% increase on their physical bill as well. So at this time, I will take any questions that you have.
Any questions from board members? Okay,
All right. Thank you very much.
thank you. Appreciate your time, Patty. Next, are there any public comments regarding the proposed tax rate? Okay. Hearing none, may I have a motion and a second that the annual tax rate hearing be adjourned?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you all. We will begin our regularly scheduled meeting